Vale's Edge, Book 1 by Carla Atherton. The final chapters. Butterfly kisses, taking flight. Fleetfoot loved to run, and sometimes he would run so fast that he would feel as if his feet would lift from the earth. Even at the tender age of almost 3, he knew that he wasn't permitted to go into the forest alone, and many times he had to be caught and returned to the settlement by an uncle, an aunt, an elder, his mother or father, like a winged insect in their gentle butterfly net, not wanting to damage his wings, not obstructing his flow of air, but to bring him home when he forgot to return or where to return to. But still he chased the lazy fat bumblebees, the pairs of peach-faced lovebirds, the gossamer-winged butterflies, wondering where they would go, where they would land if they did. Nimble as a kitten, and with as much curiosity, he would follow, he would stalk, and from behind the leaves of the bushes he would quietly watch with his hazel pinwheel eyes their busy work, their flight, their wings unfurl on the flower heads they alighted on. So sometimes, he would hear the call to the forest and just go. So this wasn't the first time his family formed a search party to find and catch their little Fleetfoot. Despite the fact that he had grown a reputation for flight, every time he disappeared, it was never taken lightly. The forest was full of the wild, and as majestic as it was not devoid of danger. Certainly not for a 2-year-old barefoot and alone. His family could follow the threads that connected them to his whereabouts, yet the further he got before they could locate him, the greater the space between them, and that space had to be crossed through the measure of time. When the call came down the thread that she shared with Fleetfoot's parents, Divine and Raymond, Kalea was the first to move. After a quick feel into the threadscape, the weaver knew exactly where the boy was, and he was close to the workshop where she and Arcturus were heads down over a blueprint they had spread out over the table. Bodhi quiet as he watched them, observing, learning. Divine, Raymond, and Honey, his auntie, were further away. Fleetfoot's vibration flashed and jumped with light, indicating curiosity and contented delight, so he likely hadn't yet realized he was far from home. "He is close to us, loves. Not to worry," Kalea assured. "Thank you," they sent back. "We are on our way." The next question came from Anahata. "Do you need help?" "Ani, love. I'll get him. Peace. All is all right." But she knew he would come anyway. "I'm coming with you, Mama Kalea," Arcturus announced, setting down the protractor he was holding. "Bodhi, can you please stay here? My mother will be along shortly," he said to the young man, who nodded. "Of course," was Kalea's reply, "if you can keep up." And they both smiled as they swiftly abandoned the workshop. "I see Kalea and Arcturus there, north, up ahead." Oberon looked before him into the distance, to where Coyote was pointing, just in time to see them rise up with the hilly path, then veer off to the left, disappearing into the trees. "There is a small clearing in those trees, a little treacherous and full of things to climb," Coyote told Oberon. "He must be exploring there." Then they all felt it, everyone, everywhere, all at once. The fear quivering down Fleetfoot's thread, then the utter stillness of a deer sensing danger. Coyote knew that fear, and each and every one of Fleetfoot's search party, from all directions, began to run. As soon as Kalea and Arcturus burst through the trees into the small glen thick with bushes and brambles, the ground uneven with mounds of small grassy hills and a smattering of rocks, they saw the reason for Fleetfoot's sudden change in tone. For little Fleetfoot stood as still as a tree himself, copper eyes wide, a few meters away from a mother jaguar and her cub. Transfixed, the boy's small bare chest was the only thing that moved, rising and falling swiftly with each breath. His knotted black afro shone in the dappled sun above his brown head. He looked even smaller than he normally looked as he faced the golden, rosette-spotted cat who was twice his size. Little Fleetfoot didn't take his eyes off of the wildcat, even when Kalea and Arcturus entered the clearing between where he stood and where the jaguar crouched on a large, low tree branch. Fleetfoot stood still. Fleetfoot stood very still. There you are, little wildling, Kalea gently cooed as she looked back and forth between the mother cat and the boy. It's okay, little Fleetfoot. It's okay, Mama Cat, Kalea began, moving to put her body more completely between them. When the cat jumped from the tree onto the root-knotted earth below, the rest happened within the swift blink of Fleetfoot's copper eyes. Startled, Kalea lost her footing on the hazardous ground she'd attempted to navigate, dashing the back of her silver-crowned head on one of the sharp rocks that littered the forest floor. The crack the impact made was the splintering breaking open of the trunk of a mighty oak. It reverberated into the very core of being, the sound making one take note of that very moment. It filled the space, fulfilled something that was coming to pass. The pain was immense, but Kalea managed to remain conscious. Arcturus bellowed. The cat and her cub sprinted into the forest to the west, but not before the mother looked back to Kalea as if in apology. Arcturus ran to where Kalea lay on the lumps of grass and rocks, knelt beside her, and gently put his hands under her head. The shouts from the glen put more speed into Coyote and Oberon's full-on run. They burst through the trees and stopped to take in the scene before them, to arrive and to witness. Mama Kalea, are you hurt? Arcturus implored, scanning her body, her face with every one of his senses. I think indeed I am, love. Arcturus could feel the warmth of blood running through his long fingers, the split in her scalp, the crack in her skull. He could feel the rapid swelling. She wasn't going to hurt him or us. She was leaving. He came upon them. They were all startled is all, Kalea managed to say, kaleidoscope eyes still bright but fading, fluxing in and out of focus. They were leaving, she breathed, and blinked long and slow. I know, Mama Kalea, Arcturus agreed as he cradled her head, applying pressure to the wound, allowing the flow of energy to begin the process of healing. Ani, are you near? My Ani, Kalea sent. I am near. Hold on, beloved, please. And she turned her attention to Fleetfoot. Fleetfoot, you are fast, are you not? Fleetfoot blinked, then nodded. And you are smart. Another blink and a nod. It is all right, little one. You are safe. At the sight of the small trembling boy, an intense wave of memory crashed into Coyote, young, wild, and afraid, and he carefully approached Fleetfoot like his father Duke once did for him so many years ago. Coyote's open arms were an invitation, and Oberon watched how it unlocked Fleetfoot from where he stood frozen and sent him burrowing into Coyote's waiting arms. It's okay now, Fleetfoot. You are safe, Coyote said again and again as he held him chest to chest, Fleetfoot's head buried in Coyote's neck as his little body trembled, shook, and released. It's okay. You are safe. Coyote, Kalea said, voice commanding his attention but soft. This is the last story I will tell. Listen well, my boy. Yes, Mama Auntie. And Kalea spun her last story, a delicate, glistening web that held them, this moment, all moments such as this, together. Anahata crashed into the glen from the north to find Kalea lying on her back, blood seeping into the rock bed beneath her head, Arcturus, Oberon, and Coyote kneeling around her, little Fleetfoot still clinging to Coyote's neck. Anahata vaguely noticed a rustling of trees behind them, the sounds of the swift retreat of an animal, perhaps more than one. The men knelt around Kalea in their intimate huddle, and Anahata was flooded with gratitude for their presence. From where she lay, Kalea reached out to put her hand on Coyote's leg, ushering the release of the shudders that overtook him, for Coyote was surprised to find that he too was shaking. Oberon put his arm around the younger man's shoulders. Kalea's expression suddenly brightened with surprise, and the corners of her mouth lifted into a smile that reached her eyes just as Arcturus straightened slightly as an antenna receiving a signal. They both felt the tug from Cressida at the same time, the ember of life within her stirring, ready. Arcturus, you must go. There is nothing more you can do here, she said quietly, but not without effect. Yes, I must go, he answered, overwhelmed with both sorrow and anticipation. I do so wish I could have been there with her, with the both of you, in the flesh for this. I know, Kalea, great mother. Go, fly with joy at your back. Today is a grand day indeed. Arcturus touched his forehead to Kalea's just as Anahata reached them and crumpled to his knees. Arcturus transferred Kalea's beautiful head into Anahata's large paws to hold, bowed his head to them both, and briefly touched his brow to Anahata's. I love you, he said to Kalea as he rose to leave. I love you, Kalea answered, smile still lingering on her thin lips. Arcturus turned and left the glen in a run, and Kalea's gaze moved to focus on Anahata's anguished blue eyes. Beloved, 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 not yet, not yet, not yet, Anahata begged, awash in the waves of grief that already threatened to drown him. Ani, love, it is all right. It is not, he denied, and shook his head, blinking out the heavy tears that fell onto the earth, onto the soft and precious face of his beloved. I will always be, Kalea said. I will always be here, she touched his forehead with her paper-soft fingers. And here, he answered, gently lifting her hand to place on his bursting, breaking heart, his sobs racking his body. As I always have been. As you always have been, my beloved, my Annie. Before her soul took flight, Kalea sent a kiss upon the wind to her daughter, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren, to Yara. She transitioned rather quickly, as the old soul knows when it is time to let go. And like that, just like that, in the arms of her beloved, Kalea exhaled her last sweet breath. The roars Anahata let out as he held her still body were not entirely human, drawn from the deepest primal pits of pain, and the tears that rode on the tailcoats of their echoes flowed and did not stop as he clutched and rocked Kalea's body, brushed back her delicate hair that fell loose from the braid he wove there that very morning, gently closed her kaleidoscope eyes as Oberon knelt beside him, as Coyote drew nearer with Fleetfoot still in his arms, as the threads of all of their loved ones thrummed in unison to the song of sorrow. As the sun set, the gossamer-winged butterfly set out once again to the blue expanse of the sky.